greetings to our ladies, gentlemen, and our non-binary babies out there, because there are some. Welcome to Live from the CRJ, the official podcast of the Dillard University Center for Racial Justice. I am the project assistant, Mr. Lawrence Weber, and sitting with me is the project coordinator. Go ahead and do that again for me. Let's get everybody on. Go ahead and do that again for me.
Tia Suggs.
We record this live, folks, so there may be some mess ups. And Happy New Year to anybody who is listening. We hope you have all types of goodness, peace, and prosperity here in 2024. But we have quite a few guests with us today, so I will start on my left. Go ahead and tell us who you are.
Hey everyone, my name is DeAndrew Thomas. I'm a junior English major from Thibodaux, Louisiana. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, go ahead for me.
Hi, my name is Rajah Thomas. I'm a senior political science major from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Woo! And go ahead, you're next.
Hello, my name is Mikayla Weary. I'm a junior film major from Seattle, Washington. Excited.
All right. So we have all of these wonderful students here to talk about the CRJ's official trip, and we headed to the wonderful, beautiful, and food-filled country of Italy. So, if I'll give you a little background on what we were doing, Tia, if you want to kind of chime in on this. So we had been planning this for quite a bit of time, if I'm not mistaken. We had initially talked about it being to Egypt, and we ended up having to change that because of certain conflicts going on. And we ended up going to Italy. So, Tia, if you could, can you let us know how we actually selected the 11 students who ended up coming with us on the trip?
So when we had our Center for Racial Justice first meeting, we told the whole group about our plans to go to Egypt, where they would have to send 2 letters of recommendations, write an essay based on a social injustice issue in that country, and get, I think that was it, just the letters and the paper. And from there, we picked 11 students out of about 20 that had very high remarks from their teachers. Their letters were very impressive on the issues that were going on in Egypt. And unfortunately, we had to change locations and switch from Egypt to Italy. But we were able to provide all 11 students with a full expense paid trip. And even out of the 11, we paid for 6 students to get their first passports or passports renewal. We wanted to make this trip a well-rounded cultural experience for all of our Dillard students, especially being that a lot of people don't get this opportunity. A lot of students mentioned to me throughout the trip, like, this is my first time on a plane. This is my first time out the country. This is my first time seeing mountains and going on a train ride. And so a lot of this trip was a lot of firsts for a lot of our students.
And honestly, I think that's another thing that made me really happy about the trip, because, I mean, for some people, they never leave the country.
Right.
I mean, for goodness sakes, I didn't leave the country until I was full grown, and you guys are literally like doing what I should have done a very, 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 very long time ago. And I first of all, just a big hand clap for Tia, who actually just kind of gave us all of these activities and kept us moving the whole time we were there. I did. Now, like I said, when I got back, I had to put my knee in ice for a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay, because we saw all that we needed to see. That I tell you, for me, that was a amazing trip, because I have never been to Italy before. I don't think anybody here had been to Italy before. So I was like, I know we're going to Rome, and I know the Colosseum is there, which, funny enough, we were literally down the street from. So that was more than amazing. But we learned so much about not only the historical sites, but the culture, and it was just a very well-rounded trip. So yay for that. So I do have to ask my students who are here, what was your initial thoughts when we came to you and said, hey, y'all want to go to Italy? And the process of how you decided to join us on this trip. Anybody, go ahead. Mike, the floor is open.
So I am originally a CRJ intern, so I actually knew about the trip way before the other students. And I thought it would be a great experience for Dillard University to have this. And I just knew I was going to tag along. So I was here for the ride, the journey, all the experience. So I was just excited to be able to have this opportunity and be with the people who make my life so amazing every day anyway. So I was just happy.
You know, when I first signed up, I heard about it through NABJA, and they sent us a flyer saying that there was a Center for Racial Justice meeting. So when I attended, I wasn't really expecting, hey, we're going to Italy. Why don't you apply, whatnot. And, I just thought it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for some people. So I just thought, why not apply? And just having that chance to be able to go out the country for a second time, it was amazing. That was definitely, my favorite experience, my favorite trip altogether.
For anybody that's here, was this your first time out of the United States? Anybody?
It was my first time out of the United States.
Now, I'll just say this because I'm a little behind on my traveling and whatnot. So I did not leave the country until 2021. It was supposed to be 2020, but the way COVID was set up, So did you have any concerns? Any okay, this is my first time out the country. What's going on? What am I going to do? What's up? I don't know what's going on. What were some of the things, and all on top of, okay, we're going to Italy. I ain't never been to Italy before. It's going to be awesome. Was there any concerns? Was there any things that you were a little bit concerned about when it came to kind of leaving the country?
And this is going to sound funny. No. No. I mean, I'm from Vegas, so I'm used to just traveling by myself and leaving home. So, I don't know. I didn't have no concerns. I was like, oh, another place to go to and brag about. But, no, I just didn't see any concerns. I really saw this as one of the great opportunities. Not a lot of people are able to just travel and go out the country. And this would have been my first time, so I was just excited and ready for new experiences.
Okay. Oh.
And so just to piggyback on that, this trip was planned with the intentions of bringing a cultural experience. So as I planned each day for our 9-day journey, it was mainly for y'all to be able to see what it's like to be in a completely different world than America and really dive deep. Our hotel being right across from the Coliseum, that was intentional. That way we can be close and walk around, because we were a large group of people. We had 11 students that we took, and just being able to experience the cooking class, the history tours, the art museums, we saw a little bit of everything Italy has to offer in a sense. And I do travel a lot, so the way my mom likes to travel is if we're going one place, we have to hit anything that's surrounding within 2 or 3 hours. And that's what we did with going to take a day trip to Venice and a day trip to Pisa, Florence, just to see as much as we can with that time that we had.
Yeah, and so what I'll kind of do is kind of break things down because keep in mind, this was, how do I say this? This was a packed trip. It was there wasn't no lollygagging going on. We traveled to Rome, we traveled to Pisa, We traveled to Barga, Tuscany. We traveled to Florence. We traveled to Milan. We also traveled to Venice. That is 6 cities in the course of 9 days. So I know some of y'all were tired. I'm not even gonna lie. If I was tired, I know some of y'all were tired. So let's first talk about Rome, because that was the first stop after the 12-hour flight that we took across the country. So I know for a lot of y'all, that's probably the longest flight that you have ever taken. I know for me, it was the longest flight I've ever taken. 7 hours, I'm good. By the time you hit 12, you're like, wow. Because when it comes to the jet lag, you're like, surprise, it's like tomorrow over here. So how did you guys kind of deal with that once you landed and got through customs and got all your bags and everything?
I'd say so. I've been to like Italy one time before this one, and like I just basically sorry. Okay, yeah, so I've been to Italy one time before this one, and I just basically like remembered kind of like what I did. Like basically it was a long flight, but I had a lot to look forward to when I got off the flight, so that kind of definitely helped. But like just like having things kind of like music, or like we all kind of sat next to each other, so like kind of checking in with each other was also really cool, and it kind of kept things moving. But yeah, the jet lag, it definitely got to me in Rome. It did.
So the place that we stayed at was Hotel Capo de Africa, which quite literally is 2 blocks down from the Coliseum. So like I said, the second that we got there, I was taking pictures. So I think the first day we went to the Coliseum. We also went to Palatine Hill. We also went to the Forum. So that just tour, just seeing all of these things that you probably seen in television or film, just like having it in front of you, literally. Okay, I was touching on the walls. Don't tell nobody. I was touching up on the walls in the Coliseum, so don't tell nobody. I probably shouldn't have said that on a live show. Anyway, but how was it to kind of literally be within like history? Because I mean, it's not every day that people see people see Coliseum and the Roman Forum and things that have been there longer than all of our lifetimes combined, you know.
I'm just thinking back to the elementary school kid in me, just learning about Italy and Rome in general, and just thinking that, I may not ever be able to see a place like that, and then just being able to go there when I'm older, that was just a different experience. It was very breathtaking and eye-opening. It was a very, very eye-opening experience for me.
What was something, especially when it came to these really big historical sites, that you did not expect?
That's an interesting question. I guess the whole thing in general, because everything looks so different through pictures. When you actually get there in person, it's just a 360. Like I'm trying to find a word to explain it. It was just eye-opening and breathtaking.
And like I said, the same for me. Like I said, for those who have been consistently listening, they know that I am an alumni of the theater department here. So we learned about Roman theater and things like that all the time. So I'm like, okay, this is where I learned. This is what's going on. This is where they probably had plays. And it was just kind of like, it was a lot to take in at a very short period of time. So we ended up going there. I know you ended up going to the Trevi Fountain and St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. If you could tell us just sort of, because if I'm not mistaken, you grew up Catholic, so that's just kind of like...
I went to a Catholic school. I'm not Catholic.
Well, I grew up Catholic, so there's at least one. So can you kind of tell us where you kind of came from with that? Because I'm like, just to be there and like the Pope is most likely down the hall. So what was the experience?
For me, I went to St. Louis Cathedral Academy, so I was really involved with the Catholic Church, even though I was not Catholic. But they had us watching Vatican City, like the Pope was our president at the school. Like anytime the Pope had to come out to speak to the people or it was on the news, we always saw him there, and we talked about the Vatican City a lot. And you learn about Roman history in a lot of classrooms. So for me, being in a place where I've always seen it on TV or, it's something that was in conversation for so many years, I never really thought about going to the Vatican City, but being in Italy, you're like, you just have to. Like certain things, it's like, even if I'm not as interested in it at the time, like just to remember something like that from a childhood and just being able to see it up close and personal, it was very like just inspiring, because it's like now I can live out the things I've learned about.
Exactly. From there, we ended up taking, was it one, two? I think it was three. It was 3 vans all the way up to our next stop in Tuscany, but we made a quick pit stop to Pisa and the Leaning Tower, and somewhere amongst all of the pictures we took is the goofiest picture of all of us trying to straighten out the Leaning Tower. For me, again, you see these things on television so many times. You see these things, but to literally have it in your face is just kind of like, wow. And like I said, there were so many folks. Shout out to Nathan, who was like the everybody was in charge of Nathan. I feel like everybody was looking at Nathan the whole time. Mm-hmm. And that was like, okay, we check in with him every now and again. From there, we went to Barca, Tuscany, over at the Renaissance Hotel. And I'll just say this. I may or may not have had a hard time leaving the lobby, because where it's situated, you see the entire Tuscan countryside from the front door. And we have so many pictures, so much to a point, and we're so high to a point where you can see literal clouds over parts of the countryside.
Yeah.
So
the resort was literally at the top of the mountain.
It was, when you say breathtaking, it was literally breathtaking. I couldn't take enough pictures. So even just kind of looking at that, I mean, Rajah, I know you from Vegas, so you've seen mountains before. It is what it is. But have you been that high up? Was it just sort of a thing of, whoa, what's this? Because I know a few of us were nervous whenever we had to drive down, because we were on buses and there are a lot of hairpin turns. So I'm sorry, I could not look out the window until we were back on the ground, because every time I looked over, I'm looking just straight down into the countryside. So I'm like, like the way that my fear of heights is set up, no, couldn't do that. But I do have this question. We had one day where it was just sort of a rest day. And, of course, it was a resort, so there was day spas there. I want to know what y'all did during that rest day. If y'all just looked outside, that is fine. Because, Lord, okay, I'll just say what I did. I went to there were 7 floors, technically 8, because, of course, if you don't know or haven't been to Europe, in Europe, the first floor is actually the second, and the ground floor is floor 0. So it's an 8-story complex. So I went to the top of said 8-story complex. There was a terrace out there, and I went out and I looked out on the terrace. I just want to remind everybody here that we went in January. We went earlier this month, and it was so cold. It was so cold. The next thing that we ended up doing is we went to a pizza and pasta cooking class. Now, this was basically on the outskirts of Rome, and as a fan of pizza and pasta, I was like, let's do it. Let's do what we need to do. If I can learn, then I can make it myself, and I don't have to go buy it. But was there anything that you learned, especially about Italian cooking? Because Italian cooking is known around the world as like some of the best cooking in the world. Was there something that you learned more about just the cooking and about the culture of the cooking?
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I really enjoyed like the cooking class, and like what I kind of learned about the culture is that the ingredients, the things that they put in their food are very simple. Like I learned like, you know, the pasta and the things that we made were only like a few ingredients, and it was just interesting to compare that to America, where we're used to like putting so many additives and just like, you know, all types of seasonings and everything like on all of our foods. But like in Italy, you said it was like some of the best cuisine, and it tasted really great, and there were, you know, only a few simple ingredients. So that's really what I learned about their culture, and just how like simple, healthy, and kind of like conservative they are with what they eat. And I feel like they value what they eat more than here, like what they put in their bodies.
Definitely. And even from the hotel in Tuscany, I was in love with our breakfast in the morning. I get my croissant, my fruit, my yogurt. I go outside. But I even noticed, like, I tried kiwis for the first time. I've had kiwis, like, little, like, added in, like, smoothies or things, like kiwi flavor or whatever. But this time I actually ate the kiwi out of its natural form. And out there it was so sweet, and it was really good. But then I came home, bought some kiwis, thinking I'm in love with kiwis, and it's very sour here. And it's tart, and it's like, it was so different. Like, just like to travel abroad, the fruit tastes different, the vegetables taste different. Like I said, like it was very sour to me here when I bought them.
Now, the funny thing about me is, I do this anytime I go to Europe. I do not drink sodas. I'm not that big of a fan of them, but anytime I go to Europe, the first thing I do is grab a Fanta. And the reason why I do that is because Fanta in Europe looks like carbonated orange juice. Here, they have that neon orange Nickelodeon sort of color. So it's just fun to see, and it tastes different too. And also the one thing I really learned is the really nice familial aspect that cooking and eating means to a lot of people in Italy. When we were done cooking, all of us got together, sat down, and had it was a really sort of family sort of environment when it came to that, because we all sat down at one table, well, two, and we all got together, and it was a really familiar aspect. Now we did get a little stuck waiting on the vans in the middle of the rain at that time, but that's okay. They still made it. They still made it to us. It was still all right. Another thing, because we ended up going to Florence, and we ended up taking a fragrance class. Now, I still have my fragrances. Do y'all have y'all fragrances?
Yes. I still have mine.
There you go.
What did can y'all give us a description of your fragrances that you've made and the name that you gave it?
So, sadly, I didn't come up with a name for mine, but I used vanilla, I think it was cypress, and I used tangerine. It was a very sweet scent, And I love vanilla and I love tangerine, so I just thought, you know.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, mine had jasmine. I think I also used the tangerine. Like one had jasmine and neroli and tangerine, and one had just neroli and tangerine. So one was named Anthony, one was named Cleopatra. So Mikayla, can you remember what you had?
Yes, I remember it had like jasmine. I think I put a little bit of peppermint oil in there. Like I used like mostly like kind of like calming essential oils. I remember calling it like enlightened mint because like it had like the peppermint in there, and I can kind of smell it. It was like the first thing that I smelled. So yeah, it was really nice.
Okay, Rajah, do you remember what you had?
Yes, because I had to do trial and error for mine. Yes. So I have vanilla, cherry blossom, and then a lot of the other ingredients I kind of mix and match because the first one I made was too strong. So I had to figure it out. And plus, the oil that they made us use was peanut oil, and I was allergic to peanuts.
Oh.
So that's probably why mine was not smelling how everyone else was smelling, because I couldn't use the peanut oil because I am allergic. So, but now I didn't let them marinate over the past 2.5 weeks, so they smell a lot better. But I wasn't going to name them because y'all wasn't going to talk about me if they were smelling bad at first. So I had to let it marinate.
And so with mine, I was just, I don't know. We were smelling so many things, and I just couldn't really get the gist of how this would all combine. So I just copied my favorite fragrance and chose Jimmy Choo Illicit, and I found the ingredients they had, and I made my own. And I probably added like 1 or 2 extra things, but I called mine Love.
And
LUV.
The funny thing about that is they use, and it goes back to actually what Mikayla was saying, they use so many natural ingredients to a point where if you came back here, you could very easily find, okay, I can find tangerine essential oils. I can find neroli essential oils. They were using everything, and while, again, Rajah could not mess with that because she was allergic. You can still find so many of those ingredients, and they're not anything that people would be highly allergic to, with, of course, the exception of Rajah. We also went to. Now, I do have to ask this. As far as I know, nobody actually speaks fluent Italian here. So let's talk about how necessarily you navigated through a country where you didn't essentially speak the language. I know I picked up Buongiorno. I picked up Scusi. I picked up Arrivederci. And I picked up Grazie. And that was about it. And I was doing my best with like just those 4 things. So if you could kind of give us an idea of how you learned how to necessarily navigate.
Y'all looking at me. So I navigated by talking to the people around me, the natives, and they would say stuff and I would say it back to them to see if I was saying it right. And they'd be like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay, great. What does that mean, though? And then that's just how I will pick up. So I picked up a lot of different terms, and I also use Google Translate. So I would use the terms I put in on Google Translate on them, and I would say it. And they'll look at me, and they were like, yes. And I'm like, great. I'm like, oh, I'm learning. And it was only like, we was only there for a week, but I picked up on so much. And it was very easy. It was just me I was trying to be proactive in learning the language because I didn't know much. So me being proactive made me excited to try new terms.
And I have a funny story, Mikayla, from the card that you all wrote thanking us for the trip. You put grazie, but Dr. Eshmo read it as, yeah, she called you crazy. When he saw that on the card. But I do feel like we were all learning the language. That was really key, putting it on the card. And we did like have, I felt like everyone was very patient with us in Italy, like helping us learn their language and understand their culture. Do y'all feel like, you know, there's been a whole lot of backlash on Italy being racist towards black tourists? Do y'all find that we had any not so great experiences or with the people in Italy?
I'd say overall it was pretty welcoming. I think a lot of people were quite excited to see people like kind of outside of like, you know, being Italian. There were like a few like little looks, just small little things that I feel like we got like just kind of like slight disgust, but it's not anything that we're not used to being in the States. So I feel like that kind of stuff is just going to be anywhere that we go. But for the most part, like overall, it wasn't too big, like to where it felt like I wasn't welcome at all in the country. But it was there, like it was there. Definitely.
And I'll say this, that because that was a big concern for me, because not only are we traveling, but we're traveling with such a large group of young black students. And I know this is going to sound silly, but I did, especially when we were going through, I did catch some of the looks as well. And I think, and whenever you see somebody, just as somebody who's black, whenever you see somebody give you that look, you don't know, well, you want to sit up here and kind of downplay it in the back of your mind. Like, are they looking at me because I am black, or is it because it's just a very large group of black people walking through here? And then, of course, I was like, okay, if they tell one of these kids something, somebody may call the police here on me. I'm not having it. So don't you tell my kids nothing. From there, we actually went to Florence, that was in Florence. Then we got a chance to go to Milan, which for me, even though Rome is the largest city in Italy, Milan seemed like a little bit more familiar. Like I said, grew up in New Orleans, family's from LA, so it just reminded me of just like another city.
Another New York.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. So
not as
I'm
many
like,
people.
Like I said, I felt a little bit more. And here's another fun story. So, like I said, 9 days, and if anybody knows me, I have a tendency to sweat. So I had to find a laundromat while we were in Milan. So I walked maybe 2 blocks from the hotel that we were at, and the funniest thing was there was a laundromat like maybe right down the street. And what's wild is that I went in there, figured out washing my clothes, and by the time I was in, there were 6 other people in there doing the exact same thing. All of us spoke English. All of us were from the States. So, like I said, I just, being quiet, got my headphones in, and just using the 7 words of Italian that I had, and realized, oh, everybody else is from the States and from the hotels. So we got a chance to not only visit the Da Vinci Museum, we also went to a wonderful place. Let's talk about the food for a hot second, because we've gone around the food, but let's talk about the food for a second. Again, Italy is known for world renowned, known for its food, and we talked we touched on it a little bit. So, how was your experience with the food?
My experience was, once again, not like everybody else's. Let me tell you, I ordered great things off the menu each and every time. I never had a disappointed night. But I will also say the food was completely different from what I am used to. In Italy, it's a lot healthier. So I did have to realize what I'm getting is not the same as I will get here. But I still enjoyed it. I got out my comfort zone. I tried things I probably would never have tried if I was home. And I really enjoyed my meals. I was not, I won't say surprised, but I high hopes. Let me just say that. I had high hopes.
I had clams for the first time in Italy. And I was surprised. Because like I said, I'm not the one who's like, ooh, I don't necessarily want that. Because I tried escargot when I was in France. Just so you know, they're not just random snails that you like plucking off the street. But escargot is not bad. It's actually really, really good. Think like shrimp, but with a different taste. But I'm sorry, DeAndrew, go ahead.
I would say I loved the pizza. At Pizza Forum, that was my favorite. The best kind of pizza that I had ever in my life, I will say. And I remember we were in Milan the first night when we went to go eat at the restaurant. I tried linguine for the first time.
Oh.
And it was definitely interesting. I liked it. I finished the whole plate. The plate was cleared. The plate was definitely cleared. But it was definitely interesting. It was something I never had before. Especially, I think they had clams in it. And it was just different. And I really wanted to keep an open mind. Because I will say, like, some of the pasta that I did try, I didn't necessarily like. However, I was like, we're in a different country, and of course it's not going to be made the same way it is in the U.S. because we use a lot of processed stuff in our food. Mm-hmm. So I definitely appreciated the freshness whenever I received my food.
And here's what I found interesting, especially the first time we ended up eating pasta in Italy. Pasta in Italy is al dente. Here in the States, we have a tendency to overcook pasta. Pasta in Italy is usually al dente, which means it's a little bit firmer than pasta when we cooked here. So when I heard that, when I got it the first time, I was like, did they undercook the pasta? Because it's a little tough. Like, I feel like I'm biting through this. It's like, no, that's meant to be that way. Then we went to Venice. I'll just say this as somebody who... Venice was beautiful. Venice was a lot of walking, and of course there's no cars because it's quite literally just a whole bunch of islands smashed together. But in that, Venice was something that we took a train there, and it's not something that I've ever really experienced before. There is, here's the thing, like New Orleans, there's a largeness. It is still a large city, but at the same time, it's still really, really small. And I found us, especially me, I don't know about y'all, there are so many little twists and turns, and I got lost a number of times when it was like, okay, we're all going to split up, and everybody meet at Zara. I got lost 3 times. I was like, where's the Zara? Let me pull out my phone. Let me make sure where the Zara is. So we got a chance to ride on the gondolas. And if I'm not mistaken, Rajah, you were on the same gondola as me. I was so nervous. I'm sorry. I was so nervous that we were going to tip over. It's like, I know how to swim, but it's like, I was nervous. So because all of you, for the most part, all of you got a chance to ride on the gondola. Tell us about your experience in Venice.
Venice was definitely fun. Like, it's something that I've never ever seen before. Like what Lauren said, like it's quite literally you're surrounded by water. Like I didn't see a single car down there, only boats and the gondolas. It was amazing. It was like beautiful just being on the water, seeing all the like buildings and scenery. It's a very historical place, so it's not as modern like compared to Milan. Milan was very modern, like it felt like another city, but Venice was very traditional, small, and yeah, the gondola ride was very nice. I was nervous, I was very nervous, but I got adjusted to it because like the views were worth it. So yeah.
And then they had the gondoliers who were controlling the gondolas. They kind of leaned into that because I'm not sure about you, but I know our gondolier decided that he wanted to tip every now and then. Like, what? No, please don't. And I'm just in the back, like, please don't do that. Please don't. Like, I'm already nervous here. You're killing me. DeAndrew, let's talk about your experience in Venice.
So I was with the small group that took the taxi boats to get there, and that was an interesting experience because we kind of got lost a little bit. So we did miss the gondola ride, but honestly, the experience on the boat was it was a vibe with the group of people that I went with, and it was just funny. So we were just enjoying the ride, taking pictures and whatnot. It was it was a very funny experience, honestly. It really was.
And like I said, in my opinion, just sort of like bringing it back to the entire trip, this was not only a trip of, just, okay, we went to Italy and there's culture and all of this, but it was also sort of a very, very much a bonding experience. Because who do you know can say, everybody is in this like one group, and my parents are always the grandiose sort of folks, because anytime they want to travel, especially to places that they've never been to, they call it an adventure. And I think we did essentially go through an adventure, because the second we landed, I saw the WhatsApp text, and it was very heartfelt. I'm not gonna say if I got misty-eyed or not. I'm gonna leave that be. I'm gonna just leave that on the table right there. But in just sort of wrapping up, one, do you have anything that you picked up from Italy, be it culture-wise, be it language-wise? Was there anything that you find yourself doing now that you learned in Italy that you didn't do before? And also, what essentially did you learn about the world, essentially the world around you, as a result of coming with us to Italy?
I'll say one thing that I definitely picked up when I came back. So you kind of mentioned it earlier, like the fruits. Compared to here and then compared to Italy, it was it was fresher in Italy than it is in the U.S. And I don't know. I'm a big pineapple connoisseur. So I definitely ate pineapples every day when we were in Tuscany. And then when I came back to the U.S., like you could definitely taste the difference. Like she said, it was bitter. It wasn't as sweet and as flavorful. And then I would say one thing that very much surprised me is, the way that people live in Italy every day. Air conditioning, for example, they don't really use air conditioning like we do. So it was interesting seeing how people lived and just getting the respect for their culture and how they carried themselves on a day-to-day basis.
And I'll say this before I move on to you guys, because you will talk. I find myself now taking more time and more effort in things that I eat. I made spaghetti like the other night, and I was like, okay. And I found myself, because that's the one thing all Italians say, you don't break your spaghetti. I found myself not breaking the spaghetti. A couple of the spaghetti noodles did catch on fire, but it's all right. I was able to put them out pretty quickly. But just seeing one that even though this is a completely different country, a completely different place, at the same time, seeing those similarities, like, oh, I know y'all. Oh, y'all got this. Oh, okay. We're not as different as the world portrays us to be. At the end of the day, we're all trying to just kind of do our thing and live the best we can. So that was one thing that I really picked up from that. Now, Mikayla, what did you end up finding out, and what did you end up like kind of picking up?
I picked up on a lot of things. Just like their communication style is very different. Like just being in some of the classes and things that we were in, they're very like caring and intentional in the ways that they communicate with each other, which is really like amazing. Also, just on the topic of food, like Italy is very much like a slow foods country, like as opposed to America being a fast food country, like what you said, like they really take their time at preparing. And so yeah, like one thing I picked up, like I want to start definitely cooking more wholesome foods and cooking for other people. Like that's also what I picked up on too, is that like they definitely love to use food as like a way to like connect with people or affirm people. So I want to pick up on that and like learn how to cook not only for myself but share with other people, because I think that's just a huge like cultural thing that they had down there. So
one thing I picked up is my health also. I make sure every day I try to get my steps in. I drink a lot more water. Going to Italy in the beginning of the year really helped me change my lifestyle to be better. And this has nothing to do with the culture itself, but also one of the things we did do as a group was kind of tell each other our goals and how we see ourselves in the future. And now every time I wake up, I have an intention to do something every single day and be productive. And that's because of the group of the people I came on the trip with. So they helped me become intentional this year. So everything I've experienced with you guys have really helped me throughout the year, and it's only been like the third week of the month. So I do appreciate everything. So yeah, the Italy trip really helped me just become more intentional in my lifestyle overall.
Great. So I would like to know, now that we've gone over everything we've done, what was y'all's favorite destination and activity that we did?
I'll go. My favorite destination was definitely Tuscany and going to Florence. The view, I think it helped with mental health, just being able to kind of just decompress and just enjoy your surroundings. And then us going to Florence, if you were there, we had our little concert right there on the stairs, right by like the food court area. And he had some people that were just looking at us like, what are they doing? But then he had some people that were just cheering us on too. So I think that was my favorite memory of the trip. Just being able to create those memories and bond with other people that came on the trip, you know, that's going to last a lifetime.
I kind of said mine, but I'll say it again. So mine was our little bonding trip in Tuscany. And like I said, when we kind of told each other, we opened up to each other, and we really became very close on that trip. So that was my favorite moment because I'm not going to lie, I'm not a crier, but they made me cry. And I was just able to open up and have a very good conversation with everyone about how I see myself since I am graduating. So it was very eye-opening to see everybody kind of open up to each other, even though we only truly knew each other for a couple days.
Yeah, same. I didn't know we were all going to have like the same one, but yeah, I think my favorite destination was like the whole Tuscany and Florence. It was just very like, it was very inspiring. It was very relaxing, and it was like the perfect place to be connected with each other and learn more about each other. Like the place itself, the scenery was just amazing. It was flawless. The place was very small and just like perfect. Yeah, and I just liked how traditional and like the buildings were very historical, kind of similar to New Orleans. I just liked everything about Florence and Tuscany. So, yeah.
Okay, and I think that is our wrap up. First of all, thank you so much for coming on this trip. I did have so much joy, not only sort of learning you guys' little knacks and little goofiness, let's be real, but just seeing you guys as, okay, y'all roam around the campus all the time, but we finally seeing you guys as, oh, these are the kids. These are our kids now. And of course, thank you to all of us who are listening, because I'm going to be the one editing this, so I'm listening too. You can actually go ahead, Tia, and tell them where they can find us on social media.
We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under CRJ_DU.
And if you want to ask us a question, feel free to email us at DU. Okay, so I'm wrong. I am incorrect. That's kind of a thing that happens. I'm incorrect. So let's go ahead.
Our email is crj@dillard.edu.
Gotcha. Okay, so I was wrong. Feel free not to judge me. I mean, I'm new. So here's also another thing. I got a chance we took a lot of group photographs when we were there, but I got a chance to print out a couple of photographs, and I'm going to give them to you, because I know this is the Instagram generation. Most of you guys got your pictures on your phone, but hey, hang it up, stick it in the frame. It's actually a really nice picture, so I hope you like it. But that is our show, and of course, we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening to us. We hope you have a great week.